Barry Levin is a veteran special educator with over 30 years of classroom experience. Now, as the executive director of the I Am Able Foundation, she uses the power of storytelling and community advocacy to change the narrative around neurodiversity, creating more inclusive schools and workplaces for the next generation. Dr. Dana Manzo is the Vice President of Student Affairs at Beacon College in Leesburg, Florida, a top institution for students with learning differences. A licensed mental health counselor, she is an expert in building supportive and equitable campus systems that help neurodivergent young adults thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. Dr. Matt Zakreski is a clinical psychologist and author of the Neurodiversity Playbook. He specializes in translating complex brain science into practical, real-world strategies. Dr. Matt helps families and educators understand the psychology of neurodivergence, reduce stigma, and build a world rooted in compassion and understanding. And we're going to begin our conversation with Barry. From your decades in the classroom, how did you see neurotypical students' understanding of neurodivergent peers evolve over time?
That's an important question to ask because it's changed a lot. When I first started teaching, my classroom, a lot of people did not want to associate with Mrs. Levin's classroom of being a special educator and the students in it. And from the time has evolved, and I got myself more involved with the school system and the teachers and made myself well known within the general ed classroom as well. And I really believe that piece of it really helped. And towards the end of my career, I ended up doing a lot of talking with students about their own neurodiversity and understanding why the big question is why? Why do they need the extra help, or why do they need maybe a fidget? And so then it can expand more in the general ed classroom. And we created an initiative called the We All Learn Differently, where we started the conversation in all the classrooms. And it's a video, and you can watch the video and then start conversations. So there's definitely so much improvement from when I first started teaching. In fact, my last I had students who wanted to be in my classroom, which was really unique to see.
All right, thank you. So, Dr. Manzo, at the college level, students are developing their student identities. And why is it important for neurotypical students to develop empathy for their neurodivergent peers, not just for campus harmony, but for their success in the modern workplace?
Absolutely. College is where young adults begin to define who they are, not just academically, but as people in a community with others. Developing empathy for neurodivergent peers is essential because it shapes how students will lead in the future. When neurotypical students learn alongside their neurodivergent peers, they develop patience, flexibility, and emotional intelligence, skills that every modern workplace values. Today's most successful teams are made up of people who think differently. Companies are actively seeking out neurodiverse talent because it drives creativity and problem solving. So understanding neurodiversity isn't just about being kind on campus, it's professional preparation.
Thank you very much. So, Dr. Matt, you're an expert at making brain science accessible. Can you tell us what is happening inside of a neurotypical child's brain when they encounter a neurodivergent peer for the first time?
Yes, and it's a wonderful question because that's why we ground all this work in brain science, because it isn't about the person, it's really about what's happening in your brain. So we have these things called mirror neurons, and mirror neurons watch what other people are doing and they prepare our brain to act in the same way if that behavior becomes necessary. And neurotypical brains have mirror neurons that work on a very specific cadence. Neurodivergent brains function at a very different cadence. So you can imagine if you were trying to do clapping along like you're at a concert and the person next to you is just clapping really, really fast, your brain's going to go, well, that's different. And our brains have a default setting to different is scary and scary is bad. but not all differences are deficits. So if you can have people be more aware and more open to different cadences of how these mirror neurons function, what you're doing is you're developing the brain's stance of curiosity, which leads directly to empathy and inclusion, and as we all hope, friendships.
All right. So, Barry, your foundation uses storytelling to build empathy. Can you tell us why storytelling is such a powerful tool in helping bridge the gap between neurotypical and neurodivergent kids?
What's really powerful is it's the human connection, and you are able to listen. You're able to hear their personal stories, their triumphs, their celebrations, their strengths. And then you're able to think about, oh, well, they're not so different from me. And it also, it helps building empathy. Storytelling helps build empathy. It helps building understanding, and it starts the conversation. That's really what's important, is starting the conversation, especially during the school years, where you could work together instead of working separately and saying, oh, well, just because they're neurodiverse, they're different. No, we want to celebrate their differences and look at the unique individual strength and how everyone is together. We just may learn differently, but we are all human, connected, and have some strengths and some challenges as well. The other thing is it breaks down the misconceptions and creates empathy for and understanding. So the storytelling is a huge piece. It really starts conversations. And once you start that conversation, you could start breaking down the walls.
So, Dr. Manzo, around the college orientation time seems a perfect time to try to build empathy among students. And I understand that Beacon College caters to neurodivergent students, but are there programs out there that colleges can proactively use to build empathy among neurodivergent and neurotypical students?
One of the most powerful things I've seen is an interactive program called Project Able. During orientation, students rotate through short simulations that mimic some of the challenges that neurodivergent peers might experience. So things like reading text that's visually distorted to understand dyslexia, or trying to focus while hearing distracting background noise to understand sensory overload. It's not about pity, it's about perspective. And that awareness shifts the tone of the entire campus from day one.
All right. So, Dr. Matt, your book is basically a playbook of strategies. Let's talk about teenagers for a moment. What's one play that a neurotypical high schooler can use to bridge the social gap between himself and his neurodivergent peer?
I love that. And so let's think about, we're teens, we're in high school, right? We're walking down the hallway, or you could be walking across the quad in college, and you see somebody, that say they're in your chem class, and you say, oh, hey, you give them the old wave, and they don't wave back. Now your brain goes to this place of, they're mad at me, they hate me. And we know thoughts lead to feelings, and feelings lead to behaviors, and our behaviors reinforce our thoughts. So if you think this person who's walking towards you across the quad is mad at you, that thought leads to the feeling of, I'm hurt, I'm sad, I'm angry. So then you avoid that person. Now the person goes, why are you being weird to me? Thus, and then they act weird to you, which thus sort of creates the conclusion, the self-fulfilling prophecy. So in my job as a psychologist, what I do with kids is we create that experience as a mental exercise. You say, okay, your friend's walking down the hallway, you wave at them, they don't wave back. Now, it is totally true. The language we use for this is there's a non-zero chance that kid is mad at you. You may have screwed up. But if you only think of one possible explanation, then all the feelings line up behind that explanation, and the behaviors flow from those big feelings. So what we're trying to do instead here is say, that could be true. What else could be true? Maybe they've got their AirPods in. Maybe they're running late. For our college students, maybe they're a little hungover because they celebrated the basketball team winning last night, or they're on the phone with their mom, or. The idea is the more potential explanations we give people, the lower the emotional intensity gets, and then we become more flexible, and that flexibility helps us smooth out any misunderstandings that may occur in a difficult to understand environment.
So Barry, let's bring this into the home. Can you talk to us about strategies that parents of neurotypical children can share with their child to help them become better friends or allies to children who think and learn differently?
I think one of the things that you can do, and that's why with the I Am Able Foundation, we created the We All Learn Differently. One strategy is if they could share this video that we have, and then they could start conversations within that video. We have a playbook that parents could use, teachers could use, but for the parents, it's an opportunity. And I think one of the things that's so important is working with trying to find the ally's strength, some peer strength, and see if you can match up to that peer and start that conversation and start developing some type of relationship with their peers' strength. A lot of individuals have different strengths, and I believe that that's a way to kind of create that, start creating that relationship, which I feel could be really, really important. But parents can have an opportunity to watch the video with their child, which then again brings some empathy as well. So that's definitely a strategy that I believe that will help our neurotypical and peers to start having some relationships with their neurodiverse individual peers.
All right. Thank you, Barry. So, Dr. Manzo, on college campuses, one of the hurdles I read about commonly when it comes to neurodivergent students is that they'll see during a test, for instance, that a child who thinks and learns differently gets extended test time or some other kind of accommodation. And in their mind, well, this isn't fair at all. So as an administrator giving advice to other administrators at mainstream college campuses, how do we move the mindset from one of fairness to equity?
That is such an important question, and it comes up all the time. The first thing I tell students is this: fairness doesn't mean everyone gets the same thing. It means everyone gets what they need to succeed. When you think about it that way, accommodations aren't just special privileges, they're tools that remove barriers. So just like a wheelchair ramp gives everyone access to the same building, extended time on a test gives a student with a learning disability access to the same opportunity to show what they know. Research shows over and over again that extra time doesn't give neurodivergent students an advantage. It simply levels the playing field for those who need it. It's not about lowering standards, it's about ensuring that every student has an equal chance to meet those standards.
Okay, thank you. So, Dr. Matt, you speak often about emotional intensity, and I'm wondering, oftentimes a neurotypical student might see a child who thinks or learns differently's reaction to something and go, wow, that was some overreaction. But I'm wondering, how do you explain to them the neuroscience behind that so they understand that emotional dysregulation is not something to ridicule, but to respond with compassion and not judgment?
And so I'm going to start with like one of my little soapbox moments here, which is I don't think the word overreaction exists, because overreaction implies that there's some right level of reaction, and let's say that your favorite football team loses the game on Sunday. I might be like, gosh, that sucks. Oh, well. And somebody else might, throw their shoe through a window. Now, I, of course, get curious about why you're so upset. And it might seem like an overreaction because it's very unexpected, right? But your feelings are your feelings, and your feelings can't be wrong. The trick is that we need to be accountable for the behaviors that flow from our feelings. And that's where most people struggle. Now, one of the biggest differences in the neurodivergent brain vis-a-vis the neurotypical brain is the role of the amygdala. So the amygdala is the source of fight or flight emotions in our brain. Now, if you're able, whether you're watching this now or watching this at home, take a look at your thumb. I'm looking at my thumb right now, and look at your thumbnail. That's the size of the amygdala in your brain. That little thing can bring us all these fear and anger emotions. But for neurotypical people, take your other hand, clap them together, the amygdala can be up to twice as large. So why are neurotypical people so emotional? The part of their brain that does big feelings is literally twice as big. So there's a greater capacity for emotional depth, intensity, and longevity, which is why we see our neurodivergent kids having more feelings more often.
So Barry, as we've been having this conversation, we've learned about various ways that misunderstandings can arise. Can you share with us some practical ways that parents can help their neurotypical child reflect and learn about how to react to misunderstandings with neurodivergent peers?
I believe that they should take a pause and reflect about what happened. And you can help ask your child, like, what do you think your friend was going through? Do you think he was doing it on purpose? Do they feel like that they might have acted this way maybe because they didn't understand something? So take a step back and ask the child about just reflecting what was going on during that time. And then you could maybe through that process, the child might understand, oh, well, maybe they didn't understand what I was asking them. And then, we could work on, well, maybe you could ask your friend, well, maybe you didn't understand what I was trying to explain to you. Can I explain it to you in a different way? So it's taking and thinking it through instead of saying, oh, he was mad at me because he didn't get what he wanted. So it's really about reflecting and talking it through with the parent and the child, talking it through and try to reframe and look at how there's opportunities to find ways that maybe their friend just didn't understand the concept or understand, and that they might need extra time to process it, or they might just need something different, like a fidget that might help them get through that process. So it's really about having that little conversation together and reflecting on it. And hopefully that will then help the child understand maybe a little bit more that they were not going through the opportunity of, that they were just mad at me situation, that there's other things behind the scenes that child might be feeling or not understanding.
Thank you. So, Dr. Manzo, in today's workplace, more and more companies are embracing neurodiversity. They're hiring employees with these skill sets that can bring value to their companies. And so as graduates who are neurotypical, I'm wondering, are there critical skills that they need to know related to neurodiversity that will help them and support their success and leadership in today's modern workforce? And it's what ways can they start to build those skills now while they're still in school?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the most successful graduates that I see share some key traits that all tie back to empathy and inclusion. So if you think first, perspective taking, the ability to see the world through someone else's eyes, working closely with neurodivergent peers helps students learn that there isn't one right way to think or communicate. Adaptability. This is critical for leadership. Students who learn to navigate differences now, whether in the classroom, a team project, or a club, develop the agility to thrive in diverse work settings later. And finally, inclusive leadership. College is the perfect place to start building it at that time in college, right? Becoming a peer mentor, joining an advocacy group, or simply getting to know classmates who experience the world differently helps students build these skills and be successful in the workplace and in everything they do.
All right, well, thank you. So, Dr. Matt, if you were advising a school district superintendent who wanted to support and embrace neurodiversity and cultivate that among their students, what kinds of things would you suggest them to do that goes beyond a basic awareness campaign?
Yeah, I mean, we always want to go deeper, right? And that can start at the district level through the process of what we call universal design. Now, my colleague mentioned earlier, right, a wheelchair ramp helps everybody get up onto the curb, right? As someone who travels a lot with a roller bag suitcase, I love me some cutouts in a sidewalk. So universal design naturally moves people towards a model of equity. The idea is like, if you're a ninth grader, but you can take AP physics, I want you in that AP physics classroom. What that's doing is that's naturally mixing things up and putting kids in places to experience different kinds of peers with different learning styles, different strengths, different weaknesses. That not only increases the academic rigor of the school, but it also fosters more stronger senses of community because kids are mixing a lot more. So if we can do universal design for their academics, we also want to put kids in places where we are exposing them and cross-pollinating them to different social interests. Now, one of the schools I work with here in New Jersey, they do a program, they call it Club Passport. And the idea is that once a month, there's a day where you're supposed to go to another club that isn't your club. So if you're in the French Honor Society or a newspaper or an anime club, you're taking a day and you're going to somebody else's club. And the idea there is not only are you experiencing these different peers, but you're getting a sense of what makes them tick. Now, and maybe you go to geocaching club and it's not your thing, and I get that, right? But it's an hour of your life that you, worst case scenario, you've learned to appreciate what these other people do a little bit more. Best case scenario, you realize, oh my gosh, I really love this. And maybe you're going to want to be more involved with those kids. So the idea of any superintendent, any school leader who wants to create an environment that's more affirming and inclusive, don't wait for the kids to do it themselves because they want to, they just don't know how. Our job is to create those opportunities for meaningful exposure and cross-pollination, because when kids start to see each other as three-dimensional creatures, they're much more likely to create empathy, make relationships, and frankly, have more fun. And who doesn't want that?
All right, that's going to be our last word. Barry Levin, Dr. Dana Manzo, and Dr. Matt Zakreski. Thanks for the knowledge.